Covering the Trump administration could be compared to aiming at a moving target. What's true today is erased tomorrow. It's the new normal. The back and forth plays out in public, and like it did this week, left reporters, well, confused.
The news rattled the markets.
Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, has verbally resigned.
For a moment, Washington was in a frenzy, too.
What the heck is happening at the White House?
There were varying news accounts on Rosenstein's departure in the wake of a New York Times report that he talked about using the 25th Amendment to have Trump removed from office. Then suddenly, whiplash.
No one was fired. There has been no resignation.
Why did the press trip up? Bad sources? A change of heart? Or just another battle scar covering the Trump administration? Late-night TV hosts had a field day.
The news was so off the rails today that CNN anchors just started talking in circles about how confused they were.
I'm confused why there's so much confusion.
I, too, am confused with your confusion, as those who are watching right now are so confused. But listen, for the last 2 years, we've all been confused by the Trump presidency.
Case in point, when President Trump recently toured storm-damaged areas in North Carolina,
we're going to be with you, you know that.
His presidential posture was soon replaced by a glib remark about a grounded boat in someone's backyard, rewriting the headline of the day. When Trump said this about Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's first accuser, Christine Blasey Ford,
I really would want to see what she has to say.
Reporters took notice.
The president has been remarkably uncharacteristically restrained.
But that was short-lived. The president returned to Twitter and stood before microphones to defend Kavanaugh and raise doubts about his accuser's story.
I think reporters need to stop expecting more from this administration and from just the wild, crazy thing that's going on in Washington. I'm tired of these if the president comes out and does something, he seems presidential, only to then shift and they criticize him again. It's as if you're waiting for the president to be different than he is. And then when he isn't, you're surprised. And that's kind of what we saw this week, part of the shifting sands, if you will, underneath some of the rhetoric coming from the White House.
We also saw a veteran reality TV show star and his staff give us a cliffhanger, cut to the next episode, give us a promo, and then continue with the story. So everyone was in a tizzy about the Kavanaugh hearing. All of a sudden, Rosenstein has agreed to verbally agreed to resign. That doesn't happen. That's a rumor. And who gave them the information of a private conversation with John Kelly?
So you think it's shifting attention away?
I think there was a leak in order to shift media attention away. It was a something shiny, which we all gravitated to so we could line our nests. And then, well, there's nothing here. Oh, wait, he's in New York talking to the UN. Right. He's not going to call him to the White House today. He's not even at the White House to call him to the White House. All right, back to the hearing.
So we have to stay away from these shiny things.
We have to just we have to look at the shiny things and say, well, what is getting lost in the glare? And we're not doing that anymore.
Well, and these are all based on leaks, and they're all leaked by people who have particular motives and who know what they're doing and who have these relationships, and it sort of goes around and around. I mean, I've been working my way through the Bob Woodward book, which, like the Michael Wolff book, feels like it, at this point, has been sort of dictated by Steve Bannon. I mean, there's like a parlor game now about who's leaking what and why, and it's the way that the White House, all these little internecine fights in the White House get played out is by who's leaking what to whom.
It was Colonel Mustard in the living room with Candace.
Exactly, and it's, it gets not only tiresome, not only unuseful, but, as CNN might say, confusing.
Yes.
And not just leaks, but leaks of what someone was thinking, what Rosenstein was thinking about, and who he talked to when you're not sure who he talked to, and that whole issue that came up with Rosenstein talking about secretly taping the president and the 25th Amendment. So I mean, supposedly that's the base, the grounding on which all of this other stuff happens. And it's no base at all.
Well, I don't know about that. I listened to a long conversation that Michael Schmidt had on The Daily. Now, obviously, the friendliest of questioners in that circumstance. And I was pretty impressed. He talked a little bit about how they reported that story. He said that it had been in the works for months. I think the Times probably got it right with Rosenstein running around and talking about the 25th Amendment and can we wiretap the president. And given that, the idea that President Trump would want to fire him is hardly surprising. And when we talk about the media running with leaks and rumors, I believe it was either the president himself or at least Sarah Sanders who said, we're summoning Rosenstein to the White House on Thursday, and we're going to discuss whether we're going to fire him or not. And then the meeting didn't take place. So far from over-relying on leaks, I mean, we've got on-the-record statements that are completely deceiving everybody in the media.
No, you're right. And beyond just the confusion that's happening in Washington, there's also this combative tone that we're seeing between politicians and the reporters who cover them. It's something that, having been in Washington for many years, I don't know that I've seen anything like this. And it was interesting watching it play out at the news conference this week between the president and Jim Acosta. Take a listen.
If you don't mind, after I'm finished, if Weija or Hallie or Vivian or one of our female colleagues could go after me, that would be great. Mr. President, just to follow up on these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh.
What does he mean by that? Explain. What does that mean?
I think it would be great if a female.
What does it mean? No, what does it mean?
It would be great if a female reporter would ask you a question about this issue. So if you don't mind,
I wouldn't mind that at all. No, wouldn't mind it at all.
All right. Well, let me. If I
wouldn't make any difference to me.
All right.
Go ahead.
If I could follow up on.
That was vintage Jim Acosta, but
that hurt a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, why? He could have asked the question, then maybe have said something right before he sat down. It's just not the tone that I've seen in other news conferences, covering the president.
And on behalf of women everywhere, thank you, Jim Acosta. We really needed that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like taking out. He was taking himself out of that situation, setting himself up as the hero. No one asked him to do that.
And is it that reporters now are saying the president goes low, so I'm also going to punch even before I get punched?
It feels like that a little bit. I mean, I know that this is a really contentious time. I know there's a lot of divide. I know people hate the media. You still don't tell the president who he can call on at his press conference. I can't even wrap my head around that. I think he was trying to be nice. I think he was trying to use his privilege to open the doors, and this is not the right context.
Right.
Jim Acosta has been starring in the Jim Acosta Show for quite a while, and this is just another example of that. And it's all marketing. I'm sure his managers at CNN love it because they have been. It's funny, after marketing themselves as part of the Trump machine during the campaign, they've really become. As much as MSNBC in some ways, the anti-Trump network since President Trump got into office. We're laughing. I don't like it. It's gamesmanship. It's just showbiz, and it had no place at a news conference.
But it's also really easy to pick moments out of that 81-minute press conference that was amazing. I kept thinking that people are going to understand the challenge that the media has. Can you imagine writing a story on that press conference for the next day's paper?
Oh, helpless.